We're going to do a read-through of a Golden Age comic book that's coverless, of a long-forgotten character, but a title that's very popular with collectors and highly sought after. Catman Comics, number 15, or is it number 5? Let's take a look up next on this video from Bronzeville Comics. Hello, panelologists. This is Jim from Bronzeville Comics coming to you with another video. Before we get started, like, comment, subscribe. Check out the description for links to my eBay store, my email, my whatnot, and my Instagram. I got a Golden Age collection, and I have a copy here that is selling on eBay. By the time this video drops, it will have sold, of Catman Comics. It's coverless, right? It's from 1942, but these Catman comics are such in demand that even coverless copies go for quite the premium. It would be an even more sought-after issue. Some of the covers, not this particular issue, but some of the covers were done by L.B. Cole. So we'll take a look. We'll do a read-through of the first story, the Catman story. We'll take a look at the backup features. We'll talk a little bit about how to identify a coverless comic book, which issue number it is. In many cases, without the indicia on the first page like we often see. And we're going to have some fun with it. So let's take a trip back to 1942 and explore Catman Comics. Okay, we're going to take a look at this book. We're going to do a little bit, I will do a read-through of the main story. It's a coverless book I got in a collection recently, and I put it up on eBay. So we'll see how much it sells for at auction. I started at 99 cents, and I know these Catman comics are desired, even coverless. Now, the coverless is pretty complete, in pretty decent shape. This was not one of, there are a few Catman books that have L.B. Cole covers. This was not one of them. I think Charles Quinlan did the cover of this. And Catman has a numbering system that is a little bit unusual. It's by Holyoke Publications. And this particular book is from I'm trying to get the right year. Yeah, what they did was they went in, this would be volume 2, I guess. It was one of those books where there was a volume as well. So their numbering is, but then it went to a straight numbering starting, like, I don't know, with issue 27. So I'm trying to find the correct numbering here, and you have to bear with me. It is, yeah, Holyoke. I'm sorry. Issue number 1 is also parenthetically issue 11, or 15 and 5. So this is issue number 5, 15 or 15 parentheses 5, and this came out in 1942, and high-grade copies of this, a 2.0 sold in September for $5,000. That's how, pricey these books can get. Unfortunately, this didn't have a cover. It wasn't even a 2. The 2.0 would have been nice. And again, it's not one of the L.B. Cole covers, which would have made it exceedingly pricey. So, this is issue number 5. There are 18 universal copies on the census, 2 restored and 1 qualified. And that's pretty much most. There are 53 copies of issue number 1 on the census, universals. For most of the rest, it's in the teens or 20s, the number of copies. And so this is from Continental. Anyway, let's take a look at this book. And because I'm curious, I've never owned a Catman book. I've never read a Catman book, but I want to go through it. And since I had one in hand, I figured it'd be fun to kind of do a read through and look through of the book. So, Catman and Kitten by Charles Quinlan. I don't have to worry about violating any copyrights because this is a public domain character. This is a strange, weird tale that opens in the office of an aged doctor. Although his many years of practice have been dedicated to aiding suffering humanity, he now sits alone and forgotten, a victim of the whims of destiny. Sadly, his weary brain ponders over the utter futility of a long and unappreciated life of sacrifice. They can't do this to me, gave them the fruits of all my skill and research, and now that I am old and poor, they shun me. Dr. Gaunt, that's what they called me now. They've even forgotten my real name. Like a flash, something snaps in the aged doctor's brains. But I'll show them. If I could not be great by helping them, and I shall win fame by hurting them. Ha 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 ha. Thus, out of the maelstrom of a tortured soul and the perfidy of men, a monster is born. There we go. They shall regret their ingratitude, Dr. Gaunt. Soon that name will be on every tongue. They will shudder at the very mention of it. I'll show them. Ha 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 ha. Amid a surge of maniacal laughter, and a demented man suddenly turns and shuffles into his dusty laboratory. Steadily, the old clock in the corner ticks off the passing hours, and then, out of the laboratory emerges an amazing apparition that hurries out the door and disappears into the night. The following morning, extra, extra, read all about it. Wealthy local banker brutally murdered. At the scene of the crime, after the body has been removed for the autopsy, the local police study over a strangely worded note found beside the unfortunate banker's remains. Go on, don't be silly. It don't mean nothing. Maybe not to you, but to me it sort of establishes the motive as revenge. You can see this is a single staple book, so I'm going to be careful with it. Meanwhile, 200 miles away at Times Square in the city of New York. Gee, Uncle David, this is certainly a marvelous city, but there don't seem to be anything for the Catman and Kitten to do but go sightseeing. Funny, but I've been feeling the same way myself for the last couple of days. Gosh, I wouldn't give 2 cents for our chances of having any excitement around here. Golly, Uncle David, that's an idea. Let's spend that 2 cents for an out-of-town newspaper. There may be an unusual mystery going on somewhere else that we can tie into. Katie, I really think you have something there. But where is that stand where they sell them? Wait, let's ask that man over there. He'd probably know where it is. Pardon me, but could you tell me where I could get an out-of-town newspaper? Why, certainly, Lieutenant Merriweather. This stand is just around the corner, where I hope you find what you're looking for. Good luck, Catman. Say, he called me by right name. He must know me. I'll say he does. Didn't you recognize him? He is... Wait, I know. Sure, it was Charles M. Quinlan himself, the man who writes the strip and draws the pictures. Well, I'll be. Come on. Let's get that paper. Okay? That's... I created him, so I see him in fourth wall. Anyway. Papers. Get your hometown paper. Yes, sir. What paper, Lieutenant? None in particular. Just give me the first one you put your hand on. The Centertown Express. Wow, Katie, get a load of these headlines. Banker murdered and robbed. Mysterious cryptic note. Only clue to culprit. Police baffled. Let's go, kitten. We're off to Centertown. Meanwhile, in Centertown, the demented Dr. Gaunt receives some unexpected callers. They can't be the police. They don't look like policemen. Patients. That's what they are. The first in 5 years. I must let them in. Hello, you Dr. Grant? We want to see Dr. Grant. Our pal here ain't feeling so frisky. Yes, I'm Dr. Grant. Come in, gentlemen. Come in. I'll be with you in a second. As Dr. Grant prepares to examine his new patient, the men whisper rapidly among themselves. There's something screwy here, guys. This bird don't look like the mug we seen. Shh. Here he comes. I'll do the talking. Well, what seems to be the matter with you? Get your paws up, Doc. There ain't nothing the matter with him. You're the one that needs a treatment. A gun? What is the meaning of this? Well, Doc, me and me pals feels that you owe us some of that dough you hooked when you croaked that banker, and we came to collect. Displaying a sudden surge of strength, unbelievable for a man so old, the wily doctor hurls his captors from him. Take your filthy hands off me. Stay where you are, Doc. I'll shoot. Put down that gun. The old doctor's eyes glare hypnotically at the cowering thug. Did you hear what I said? Drop that gun. Now that's better. Now I see we begin to understand each other. Sit down, all of you. You know, gentlemen, your presence here has sort of given me an idea. Yes, a marvelous idea. But first I'd like to know how you found out it was I who done away with Banker Richer. Meanwhile, the chief of police at Centertown has an unusual visitor. In my capacity as a special investigator, I'm sure I can crack the case for you in very short order. Okay, Lieutenant Merriweather. But I warn you, it's a tough one. This note is the only clue. The dough is gone and no marks of violence on the victim. And to make it tougher, he had no enemies. The safe been opened by himself and the note had no fingerprints. Of course, it is just possible you may have overlooked a few clues. Lieutenant, I went over that joint personally, and if you missed anything, I was just because I wasn't there, see? Now, Sergeant, don't get excited. I'm not questioning your efficiency. I only meant to say that some people's senses are much higher developed than others. The Catman's super keen sense of smell detects an almost imperceptible odor of iodoform adhering to the strange note, an antiseptic disinfectant. Meaning yours, I suppose. Yes. For example, I think I already know the profession of the person who wrote this note. Yes, the person who caused the death of the Banker Richer was probably a doctor. That's a hot one. He smells it, holds it to the light, and he knows who wrote the crazy words on the note. That's right, Sergeant. Smelling it revealed the presence of iodoform, and then holding it to the light disclosed the watermark of paper commonly used for doctors' prescriptions pads. Now, since the doctor is my suspect, the jumbled words of this message begin to make sense. So long, boys. Meanwhile, at the home of the insane Dr. Gaunt, the villainous trio has told him how they discovered that he was the murderer of Banker Richer. So, you went there to rob him yourselves, eh? And while watching from a window, you seen the whole thing? And then when I left, you followed me here and decided to return the following day and take the loot away from me. Very clever. That's right, Doc. But now we want to know is how did you kill him? You would like to know that, wouldn't you? I told you your presence here gave me an idea, and here it is. You are going to be members of my organization. Nothing doing. We work alone. Give us our dough or we'll take it. No, you won't. And you will join my enterprise or else I'll have to kill you all in my own unusual way now. No, boss. Okay, we'll join. Ah, that's better. Now I'll tell you who is the next to get a prescription of death from Dr. Gaunt. What's that? Someone at the door. It is Lieutenant Merriweather, the Catman, making a checkup on all the doctors within the vicinity of Centertown. Keep out of sight, Katie, and be ready for anything. Even this one may be him. It's an army officer. Hide in the laboratory. I'll see what he wants. I'm Lieutenant Merriweather. I'm making a survey of the doctors here in Centertown. May I come in? Well, I'm kind of busy, but all right. I guess I can spare a few minutes. Go ahead, I'm ready. What do you want to know? Shucks. I must have left my notebook at Dr. Burns' office. Have you a pad or something I could use? Here's my prescription blank. Would that be satisfactory? Thank you. Yes, that will be perfect. Taking the pad, the Catman removes the cryptic note from his pocket and fits the torn edges to those of the pad. Hey, what are you doing? Very careless of you, Doctor. The torn edges of this pad and this note, found near the body of Banker Richer, are the evidence that will send you to the electric chair. You're under arrest. Help, get him, men. What the? Ow, bop. Yeah, sent you to the... I guess they didn't do a lot of proofreading. Good, very good. Those strong-arm methods may prove valuable after all. But outside, the kitten has been watching and has seen the Catman fall under the foul blow. Gee, they slugged Uncle David. I better act fast. Quickly changing into the garb of the kitten, she climbs an open cellar window and slips inside. Come on, pick him up and follow me. I have a room in the cellar that will take good care of him. All right, put him in here. Gee, boss, this is kind of fancy. Ain't no coal bin, is it? Indeed it is not. It is a gas chamber. And now we won't be bothered with him anymore. But what do we do with the body? In this case, it would be no body. This is a special gas of my own invention that disintegrates it into dust. As soon as the door closes behind the heartless criminals, the kitten dashes from her place of concealment, turns off the gas, and drags the unconscious Catman to safety. Gee, he's still out cold. I guess it's up to me now. That was quick. That's the last page. As the kitten dashes up the cellar stairs, the Catman regains consciousness. Wow, what hit me? Oh yeah, he called for help, and he must have got it. He's got a gang, eh? A gang. Let's go, Catman. Now that snooper is out of the way. I had better destroy these right now. Oh boy, the way he's standing is just made to order. Here I go. Flinging the door open, suddenly the kitten leaps feet first at the center of the man doctor's back. Strike like in a bowling alley. Ow. Grabbing a heavy candlestick, she pounces on the sprawled gangsters. This'll keep you birds quiet for a while, I bet. But the wily doctor regains his feet, and with a murderous glint in his eyes, leaps at the kitten. Yeah, another snooper. Hey, I'll fix you. Ha ha ha. Oh, yeah? Wow, goal! Look, kitten, the evidence is still here, and say, here's the doc's murder weapon. Hello, Chief of Police, Lieutenant Merriweather talking. Send a squad car out here to pick up your murderer and his gang. You'll find all the evidence and the murder weapon, a hypo needle on the desk. Yes, Dr. Grant killed Banker Richard by injecting a bubble of air into his bloodstream. And say, give my good regards to that detective sergeant. So long. Well, kitten, not a bad adventure for a small town, but you had all the fun. Yeah, and it's lucky for you that I did. Say, who's that fat guy with the turban? That kitten is the Raja of Destruction, and he's going to make things mighty hot for you in the next Catman. That's interesting that they kind of previewed the next issue. Here we have the Deacon. I'm not going to read through all those. Plainclothes policeman. The art here is a little crude. I think the Catman art is pretty decent for the Golden Age. I enjoyed that story. I don't know if there's ever been a Catman collection of Golden Age stories. And here we have Ragman. Different than the DC character of the 1970s. Let's see. Yeah, I think it was Continental first. And number 5. Oh my goodness. So Ragman. Assuming the rules of the world, and we created a monster. Where is Ragman? I guess Ragman's not the big dude, but it's this guy? Oh, well, missed Ragman. What is it? Oh, he's just a guy in a suit fighting this big giant. And he shrunk down to normal size. At least they didn't have to figure out how to dispose of him. Next month, the Ragman goes on a dangerous mission as he tracks down the creator of human monsters who defies all laws of nature in a mad effort to conquer the world. Can Ragman escape the fate of what has befallen the helpless victims before him? Don't miss the next issue of Catman Comics. Little Leaders, The Death Letter by Sal Brodsky. Sal Brodsky did work for Marvel in the 60s. was one of the, wasn't he? He was there right at the beginning of Marvel Comics. So these two kids, I guess, are the main antagonists. Now, here's a little hint. I had done a short on this. Coverless, right? So coverless comics from the Golden Age, generally speaking, even through the Silver Age, the indicia, which has all of the information about the comic book, is usually on the inside front cover. Whereas for, let's say, Bronze Age and forward, it's Bronze Age, it's usually on the first page, right? So with a coverless comic, you don't have immediately the information. What you can do is if you type in, there's almost always in these Golden Age books a text story with a distinct title. Oops, let me get the title on screen. So Frank Fairplay Soldier. If I type into Google the title, Frank Fairplay Soldier, and then comics.org, Frank Fairplay, if I spell it right, Play Soldier, I'm reaching across soldiercomics.org, it'll say the first thing. Oh, it doesn't. There are other Frank Fairplay text stories. Frank Fairplay's Vacation. So this would require. That's interesting. Oh, let me put that in quotes. I did find this otherwise because it's not often in the Golden Age. That yes, this is volume 3, number 5, 15. So once I did Frank Fairplay Soldier in quotation marks, because there is no title on the main story, but these text stories will always have a title, and this leads us right to it. So the Deacon was done by Pierce Rice. Alan Ulmer did the Ragman story, the Human King Kong. And under Grand Comics Database, they put brackets around when they don't really have titles. The Death Letter is by Sal Brodsky with script by Jack Grogan. Horace Wallace did this. And then we go to Blackout by Robert Bryce. And they also have in Grand Comics Database, first line of dialogue or text, A Dark Night in Augsburg. And that's what you have here. So it makes it, when you go there, it does allow you to identify the issue and so on. So we have Blackout. I don't know if we get an explanation of who Blackout is. Why is he wearing goggles? Is he like Dr. Midnight? Can he see in the dark? Then we have Phantom Falcon. This is also by Sal Brodsky. This is, I guess, an Air Ace story. Looks like he's in the Pacific Theater during World War II. Again, this is 1942. Let me just give a little support over here to this side of the book. I'm just going to flip through the rest of this. Then The Hood. The Hood story is by Alan Mandel and Dan Barry. And he's obviously fighting the Nazis. This character looks a little bit like Captain Nazi. Captain Nazi came out in 1940 or 41. I think it predates this. And then finally, Cobbler Kane by Oliver Ashford. And this also is Cobbler Kane, one of the greatest aces of World War II, was not an Englishman at all, but a New Zealander. Cobbler Edgar J. Kane. He distinguished himself by attacking against terrific odds. So it tells you who he is right up front. I don't think they really got into the Hood. Yeah. These kind of forgotten heroes. Some of these, I know Catman and Kitten were used. And then there's a Western story. Pancho Villa's Yankee Captain. and that is by Ray Wilner. Again, I'm using Grand Comics Database for this, and then that concludes it. So one thing that's interesting is there aren't a lot of ads in here. Are there any? Other than no ads at all in this book, which is kind of interesting. So these Catman books are rather popular, and I kind of posed the question as to whether we had Catman reprints. Yeah, it doesn't look. I'm not sure if there's been anything collected. Catman and Kitten, 1940-46 comic book superhero. It was created by Erwin Hassan, who also created Wildcat for DC and did have a long run on Green Lantern. He also was the creator of the Dondi newspaper strip, which became a movie in, I think, with Glenn Ford in like around 1960. First published 1940. An alternate version of Catman was published in Australia, and AC later revived the character in the 80s. They did a lot of that with the 1940 Tem Publishing, one of Temerson's several companies. It was Frank Z. Temerson. Crash Comics issue number 4 featured the origin and first appearance of Catman. 1940, when we get Catman Comics, it was an anthology title, and then in 42 it went to Holyoke. It ran for 33 issues, 12 of those published by Holyoke. David Merriweather, Catman, was raised in Burma by a tigress after his parents had been killed. So kind of like a Tarzan situation. From living with tigers for years, he gained superhuman abilities such as super strength, enhanced agility, natural night vision, and the legendary 9 lives of a cat. He also had that super sniffy power that he used on the letter from the prescription pad in this story. Eventually, David returned to the U.S., where he's horrified by criminals preying on the innocent. To stop this, he became a private investigator. He later became an officer in the U.S. Army. And in issue 10, which is 5 issues before this, he encounters Katie Khan, an 11-year-old circus acrobat who fell under the guardianship of her unscrupulous uncle after her parents died in a fire. The uncle forced Katie to steal things from him. Catman intervened on her behalf and made sure her uncle was brought to justice. Since she no longer had a guardian, David adopted Katie. She tried to help him fight crime, sewing a matching red and yellow costume and calling herself Kitten. And then that was about it. He did have AC Comics, with like their FemForce line, did that, and then Dynamite with Project Superpowers. Did have Catman and Kitten. Yeah, a new series was announced, and then an animated web series, a pilot for an animated web series on YouTube. So anyway, that is this issue of Catman Comics, and this I have it up on eBay. So I'll put in the title how much it's sold for. This is gonna this is even coverless. This is a very, very popular title. So it's kind of interesting just to see. And I've never read an issue of Catman. And now that we have it, some interesting elements. The fact that he bumps into his own creator in the streets of New York City. So that was a fun read through. Let me know what you think of these read throughs, and let me know what you think about Catman. And anyway, I'd like to thank you for stopping by. You can take a look at a couple of my other videos kind of in this area. And this is Jim saying until next time, enjoy your comics.